In Seasons 4 and 5 of Cobra Kai, we get to know Terry as a formidable fighter, as he's even the best fighter in Season 4 and a top tier fighter in Season 5. But what if I told you that the Terry Silver that we see in Cobra Kai pales in comparison to his prime during Karate Kid 3? Today, I'll be going over how strong Terry actually was during his prime by analysing his feats and scaling. During Karate Kid 3, he demonstrates his strength on a few separate occasions. In one scene, he was able to completely obliterate the wooden dummy that he set up for Daniel, and while this might not seem that impressive, keep in mind that Daniel was unable to break this dummy even after multiple consecutive punches, and these are around the same number of punches he used to defeat Chosen in Karate Kid 2, who was able to break a piece off a stone statue calculated at 126 kilojoules. This feat alone would mean that Terry is easily capable of one-shotting any of the team fighters, which is further solidified in Season 5, as he should be very much capable of destroying the same stone dummy that Tori did, and should be relative to adult Mike, who destroyed bricks as a kid. But in order to gauge the upper limits of his strength in his prime, we first have to assess how strong Terry is while he's much older. In Season 5, he was able to physically ragdoll and enrage Daniel for most of their fight, to the point that he was bedridden for a week. This Daniel was confirmed to be on the same level, if not better than Drunk Chosen, who was able to drop Yan Wu, the same sensei that took on both Johnny and Chosen at the same time earlier in the season, even being unfazed by a flying kick from Johnny. If Terry's physical strength as an old man past his prime is still among the strongest, then you might get an idea of how strong he was in his prime, as at this point he never stopped training. Terry's durability should scale to his strength, as I've explained in my previous videos due to Newton's third law of motion. As for his feats, he had the privilege of fighting Mr. Miyagi, and while he didn't take him as seriously as he did Kreese, he was still able to withstand multiple attacks as he got up after a kick and wasn't that affected when he got thrown into a glass mirror. We also see in the 1980 flashback that Terry and Kreese were relative in strength and durability during this time. Since only Kreese stopped training by the time between Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 3, we can assume Terry was still relative to Kreese in strength and durability. And Kreese was able to withstand Mr. Miyagi's initial barrage of attacks, which Terry should also scale to, and I don't think it should be said why this is impressive, as Mr. Miyagi is pretty much confirmed to be the best fighter in the verse. As an old man, Terry was still skilled enough to beat up the likes of Robbie, Johnny, Daniel, and Chosen. I also think people generally underestimate the gap between Prime Terry and Old Terry. Let me elaborate, because after the events of Karate Kid 3, we know that Terry stopped training altogether for the next 34 years. As for how long he's been back, we know he rejoined sometime after Kenny joined in Season 4, and it's stated in Season 5 that Kenny has been in Cobra Kai for less than a year. Which means Terry has only been back from a 34-year hiatus for less than a year, in which during that time he's aged considerably. Compare this to Terry in his prime, who never stopped training since the Vietnam War in 1968 to 1985 in Karate Kid 3, even learning from Kim Sun-young himself in 1980. So a younger Terry who never stopped training for 17 years should be far superior to his much older version who stopped training for 34 years and has been back for less than 1. It should also be noted that Terry admitted that he was completely coked up during this time, so it's likely we haven't even seen him at his absolute best. So how strong was Prime Terry actually? Considering how even as an old man who's been out of karate for 34 years, he's still a top tier fighter in Season 5. In his prime, he should not only be more physically capable, but also more skilled, as he hasn't stopped training since the Vietnam War, and was seen keeping up with his training in Karate Kid 3. By far, Prime Terry's strongest argument is without a doubt his scaling to Prime Kreese, who in turn withstood attacks from Mr. Miyagi, who alongside Master Kim is confirmed to not only be the best fighter in the verse, but also exponentially better than everyone else. Therefore, Prime Terry should be the 4th best fighter in the verse, behind early Mr. Miyagi, Kim Sun-young, and Prime Kreese.